Raising children is difficult, and with so much information out there, it's hard to know what advice to trust. The Child Psych podcast brings you the top parenting and mental health experts in the world. This podcast is designed to encourage and educate you with the most up-to-date research and concrete strategies that foster healing and resiliency in children and teens, and tools that make parenting easier. Whether you're a professional or parent, you will walk away with answers that empower you, and you'll feel more confident knowing you are on the right path. Most importantly, we're here because we need to raise a generation of children who don't need to recover from their childhoods.
Hello and welcome to the Child Psych podcast. I'm Tania Johnson.
And I'm Tammy Shamoon.
We're registered psychologists, registered play therapists, co-founders of the Institute of Child Psychology, and we are both mums to, how many do we have? Five kids between us.
5 kids.
We had to count.
Yeah, and we're here this week to talk to you about Santa and what to say when kids ask about Santa. Is it okay to lie to kids about Santa? Or I wouldn't say lie so much as like hold the myth intact that is Santa. I know parents have some guilt and some conflicting feelings about this topic. So we're going to kind of delve into both of those things. Let's talk about the myth, and let's talk about when kids ask about, is Santa real?
Oh, it's such a hard time. It's such a hard question. I think for so many parents, when those words come out of their kids' mouth, I think it's often a freeze response of, what do I do now?
And I can tell you that I'm obviously my 16-year-old does not believe in Santa, but I think it's funny because my mom always told me that my Auntie Terry, believed in Santa till she was 16, which I was hoping wouldn't be the case with my oldest. But I was a little worried last year. My daughter, who's 10, still was believing, and I was like, we're still doing. I was like, but at the same time, my husband's like, you know what? She's very imaginative and creative. And then this year, luckily, my son, who is 8, was not there, sitting at the dinner table. And she said, just so you know, I know. And I was like, what do you know? The jig is up. Santa's not real. I know. And I'm like, okay, I thank you for sharing. Please don't tell your brother. So that's how that went. It was an announcement about 2 months ago at the dinner table when my son was not around. So that's 2 for 3 down in our household.
Do you remember when you stopped believing in Santa?
Yeah, I was in the 2nd grade actually, and it came as a result of I overheard something, which then made me start to think, like, well, right, like how would reindeer fly? And how would these things happen? And how come I've never seen him? And one time I think I found a gift at some point too that was supposed to be from Santa. And so my world came crashing down for a second, which then led me to realize there's also no such thing as a tooth fairy and the Easter bunny. And it just kind of hit me at once. And I kind of approached it with my parents in the same way. I just told them, like, I know. And then I just saw the look on my mom's face being like, okay, well, I think she said the same thing. Please don't tell your little brother.
Yeah.
I don't know if your kids have hit that yet, or they both are still firm believers.
The oldest one, who is nearly 9, is starting to ask questions. So even this morning, we have our elves that are moving around the house. We actually have a family of 4 elves. We punished ourselves with that somehow. But they were moving around the house, and I heard her saying to her dad, I've seen these elves in shops. Are you sure that you guys didn't buy the elves and then you're moving it at nighttime? And he just said to her, what do you think? And she looked at him and went, I think they're magic, and walked away. But you can see she's on the brink. We're right there on the cusp.
Yeah, and my 8-year-old's not talking about Santa. So I don't know if maybe he's in denial a little bit and doesn't want to bring it up because he's pretty sure this is just it's not a real thing. And they are at that age in the 3rd grade where other kids would be saying, like, it's not real. So I find that interesting. He hasn't made a list. He hasn't talked about it. So to me, I think this might be it, if there even is it this Christmas. So I thought, Tan, maybe we can start with you, though, for the parents who maybe have kids who are still in believing mode, or maybe parents who have like new ones and you're trying to decide how you want to handle Santa, like a 2 and a 3-year-old. where parents, maybe lying was a big issue in their family of origin. And so honesty is like a huge value. And so they're trying to justify this myth of Santa and telling kids, that this man comes into your house and there's reindeer and he puts gifts here. What would you say to those parents who are grappling with this?
Hmm. Well, I think that every family is going to choose what's right for them in terms of values. There's no right or wrong when it comes to this. So for some families, there may just be some reconciliation between the parents where we go, okay, this is something that we're going to carry on for a little while, but as soon as they ask us, we're going to be honest with our child. Whereas I do know of other families who, right from the very beginning, tell their kids that Santa is just a fictional character and Santa embodies joy and generosity, and it's more about what Santa embodies than Santa himself. And they say it in developmentally appropriate language. But I think families have to decide right from the very beginning, is Santa something that we're going to do or not? And when our child does ask, what are we going to do then? And I think to be on the same page, if there's two parents in the house, to be on the same page is incredibly powerful. So talk about this before it comes up.
Yeah. What about, for me as a mom, I think part of it is understanding that kids live in their imaginations till they're about 7 or 8 anyway. And 7 or 8 is the time when kids start to question this. So to me, this is a form of play. That imagination at that age is just something that is infused in their everyday life. So to me, we imagine all kinds of things in our household. That doesn't mean they're true. Sometimes it's a wish, and sometimes kids are just that engrossed in in imaginary worlds. And so to me, there's nothing wrong with it per se. Not to say that everybody has to adhere to that, but I think for me, it's a form of dramatic play almost for kids, these mythical worlds. And it's this really precious time where kids really believe the world is magical and full of good things. Like, it's very innocent. So like for me, that's how I always looked at it, is being like, they have this very short window to believe the world is this wonderful place and they are not jaded by all of the things that go on. So I think that was a line in the sand for me, is being like, I'm good with that. But I would say as a parent, and I always tell clients this, and I've put it on social media, the big gifts actually aren't from Santa, because I think of all the kids whose families are lower income. And so if there's electronics or anything that's really expensive, that always comes from us. And actually the Santa gifts are the smaller ones.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So, so important. Yeah, Tammy, I think that magic, make-believe, play, as play therapists, I know you and I are strongly bought into the value of play and having kids imagine other worlds and other characters and expressing through those characters and other worlds. I think the key comes down is, if honesty is very, very, very important in your family, is to know how you're going to handle the moment.
Yeah. And, personally, I think it's good to tell your kids, if you're going to be honest and it's no Santa from day one, then just let them know that you don't need to share that with other kids. We don't want to wreck it for other kids, right? So it's just saying that this is in our family, this is what we believe, and other families believe different things, and that's okay. Like, so just normalizing that those beliefs aren't the same in every family.
And then maybe giving your kids some tools. So when other children bring up Santa, you can be quiet, or you can give an experience that you may have had with Santa, even if you know that Santa's not real. You can give that experience. But I think it's important to talk to kids about, what do we do when other kids talk about Santa to you?
Yes. Okay. Now here comes the talk. If, let's say, you're a parent who has been, I am, who has been, doing the note and the cookies and the milk and the whole 9 yards. And then your child comes up to you and says, is Santa real? Like, concrete question. And then, of course, you're panicking a little bit, like, how the heck am I going to handle this? And so what I'm going to suggest you do is let your child lead the conversation instead of you. So this actually takes some of the pressure off of you as a parent, because kids are going to get skeptical second, third grade, 7 or 8 years old. My daughter, she was 10, and some kids are even sooner, as soon as kindergarten, like 5 years old. Every child's different. But just start by gauging your child's curiosity and let them kind of come to their own conclusions. So just say to them, what do you think? Like, when they ask the question. So I think that's, Tan, what you did, your husband did, or you did with Una?
My husband, yep.
Yeah. What do you think? Or you can start with, I'm just curious why you're asking this, because like me, maybe your child overheard something at school. They're starting to critically think about, like, I don't understand how someone can fit through a chimney when there is no chimney in our house, or how reindeer can fly. And I've never seen any paw prints on the roof. Like, I was a kid looking for paw prints, by the way. So when I didn't see them when I was 7, I started to really think about this, right? So another question you could put back on them is, like, what would it mean to them if Santa wasn't real? What would that mean? And just see what they say to these questions. Um, you know what? Maybe they're just, after you ask these questions, the child will just be like, you know what? It's not a big deal, but I really want my little brother to believe Santa's real. Or, you'll say, why are you asking? Oh, I overheard some kids at school. And then you might say, well, what do you think about that? Or do you believe what they said? Like, again, we're letting the child start to form opinions about this without putting words in their mouth.
I love that. And we're also not assuming. So when we lead the conversation, I think we often give away too much. Whereas when we let them lead, they are forming what's going to happen next, how the conversation goes.
Yeah. So, AKA, don't panic, breathe, because it might not be the end. It might just be the start of critical thinking, where that child's looking at logistics and they're analyzing the situation and looking, which is a really good sign, actually. It's a sad time for us as parents because there's a little bit of magic that goes out of Christmas, I think, for a lot of families. And we have to kind of honor that. But I think there's one thing you can do is you can honor the truth without necessarily spoiling all of the magic, if that makes sense. So you could maybe say, you're right, it's true, Santa isn't real. However, Christmas is really about giving, and it's not about receiving gifts. It's about making other people feel really good. So it's about good deeds. I wonder if you could be a Santa character for a next door neighbor, or you can help being Santa with your younger brother. So that's where we can get kids involved in the giving spirit. It could be random acts of kindness. I know there's advent calendars for that. We have one as part of our membership that I put up actually today, where they can, put candy canes on people's windshields, or they can give a gift to a child. Here we have what's called Santa's Helpers. We can bake cookies for the neighbor, or bake dog cookies for a local animal shelter. So we can keep that spirit of Santa alive in a different capacity.
It's beautiful. I love it. I think one of the favorite things that I've heard when a child says, that's it, Santa's not real, one of the things that we can say to them is, it's a character that we like to pretend is real. And it's about the magic of Christmas. And, our kids are so good, even 8, 9, 10, still engaging in some of that fantasy play. That's still happening in a different way. It's still happening. So we can even say to them, let's pretend Santa's real. Let's make cookies together. So we can continue to try and play with them in different ways and just be playful, be light about it. It doesn't have to be a serious or sad thing, even if we might be grieving ourselves. But I think that we can lead the energy around the conversation and how we then move forward with our children.
Yeah. And just to kind of wrap this up for parents, again, stepping out of this magical realm into the reality that is Christmas when we become adults. It's a part of growing up, but honor the feelings you have about this. Honor the sadness, and there's some grief that exists there. And it can be hard, I think harder sometimes on parents than it actually is on kids, just because we're watching them grow up so fast. And this is a rite of passage, and that's difficult. It's just like when your kids get their driver's license for the first time. It's scary thinking that they're taking that next step forward.
But often too, in that next step comes lots of new, beautiful things. So like I said, them being involved in Christmas in a different capacity. So as we let go of the old, we also embrace the new and go, what's here? Where's the new magic going to be in Christmas with my child?
All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Child Psych Podcast. Wishing you all very happy holidays and best of luck with the Santa conversations that might be happening right now in your homes.
Best of luck, everyone.